Welcome to Dive In with Matt and Joe.
We're here to continue the conversation that was started with our Sunday message here at Centerpoint Church. Sometimes we dig deeper into the biblical context. Other times we're telling some stories. We are excited that you're here to take this journey with us. I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe. Let's dive in.
Welcome in, everybody. We're glad you're here to join us. Joe and I are going to dive in a little bit more on the passage and the concept that we introduced at the weekend message just this past Sunday at Centerpoint, where we're talking about compassion. So in this whole series, we're taking a look at how God is forming us, how God is shaping us, and there are these characteristics of God that we see becoming increasingly characteristic of who we are as a people. And compassion is one of those. In the message, we focused in on a story that's familiar with a lot of people, the story of the Good Samaritan. And I'm not going to rehash that story now. You can go back and read that if you want to in Luke chapter 10. But that's the beginning point for us, and getting a heartbeat. Not only what does compassion look like for us, but this is a compassion that flows out of the very heart of God. And so we want to continue to process that together here today in Dive In with Matt and Joe. So, Joe, just acknowledging you're in the room. It's good to see you.
I am.
Across the table. Always makes me feel a little bit better when you're there.
Yeah, it's good to be here with you.
And we have with us today a special guest who's going to share some story with us about how his heart has been shaped. So let's give it up for a warm welcome to Jim Hochberg. Jim, welcome aboard.
Hello. Thanks, guys, for having me today.
It is great to have you here. Jim does an incredible amount of serving in the life of our church and in our community and with City Hope, but a lot of it is behind the scenes. Jim, tell us just a little bit about you so that we can get to know you a little bit. Tell us about your family and who you are.
Sure. So I'm Jim Hochberg, and I'm married to my wife, Lisa Hochberg Pratt. She is the director of City Hope, which, as you guys know, was kind of birthed out of Centerpoint. Mm-hmm. We have 5 children. When we met in 2004, they were 7 to 17. They are now 29 to 39. So we've had a 22-year run and watched all that happen. All those kids grow and move out. And it's been a real blessing because it's we're a true blended family. And they have really come together and become true brothers and sisters. It's just been beautiful to watch.
I've gotten a glimpse of that from the outside of your family, and what you say is true, because blended family is tough.
It is. It was very tough in the beginning, and it does get easier, but it's a challenge.
And I watch your family interact, and there is just genuine love and affection for each other. There is genuine conflict. So you know your family when you can fight together?
Yep, exactly.
And it is a beautiful thing, what you say. I've seen it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
We also have 5 grandchildren, and they are 3 to 20.
All right.
So that's a whole new ball game. That's just fun because you get to take them and sugar them up and then give them back to their parents.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That's fun. We've also recently got some new kids in the house. We have 2 dogs.
Yes.
Which you know.
I do.
And so the one's a 3-year-old golden doodle and one's a 1-year-old golden doodle. So
yeah.
They,
Goose
and
the
Ducky.
older one, and Ducky, the little one. Oh my gosh, they're hilarious.
Matt always needs to get some time with them.
Yeah.
It's just, you're like a kid in a candy store.
They make me unreasonably happy.
They make us very happy.
Yeah.
At times.
Well, and that's been a little bit of a heart change for you guys too, because you were always cat people.
Yep.
And dogs are like, eh.
Whoa, really? I didn't know this.
Yeah. We had 3 cats at one time.
Yeah, they're actually, both he and Lisa are fluent in pss, 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 pss. And so
What
cat
changed?
people.
What changed, Jim?
They got old and passed.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So we still have one, but he's getting by. But we're giving him the best life we can. So
Okay.
By bringing 2 dogs into
by
his
bringing
house.
2 dogs into the house and torturing him.
Not
Yes.
stressful in any way whatsoever for him.
Yeah. Well, and you took Goose in, but it was kind of like Goose was somebody else's dog.
Right.
And he needed a place to go because his home wasn't working.
That's right.
So it wasn't forced upon you. You could have said no, but
it was our daughter's dog, and we offered to home him for, a couple of weeks until she could find a new home for him. And on day 2, my wife said, we're going to keep him.
We're going to keep this dog. So that was how many years ago? 2?
2024.
Yeah.
So was that moment surprising to you when she said, "Hey, we're going to keep him"?
Yes. So we just were never.
It was people. To me.
We were never dog. Well, we were never dog people, and he just kind of come in and stole our hearts. It was just, he was ridiculous. He just came in and he's just all cuddles, and he's there. You get it. So
I do.
He won you over.
Yeah. So what we didn't know was he was as hyper as he was, because when we got him, apparently he was sick, and we thought he was this nice docile dog.
Oh no, that's a change.
And then a couple of weeks later, we're like, where did this come from? So, but no, we love him. We love him to death, and he brings us joy. And the same with his little sister.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So we're talking about dogs and family. Anything more about your family you want us to know?
No, I mean, Lisa and I we've been coming here pretty much since we met. Like our third date, we came to church here in 2004.
Okay. So just to clarify, you said third date. So coming to church was a date for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. We had gone out Friday night and Saturday night, and I said, want to go to church on Sunday, and she's like, sure. So it was
call it a date.
Call it a date.
And here you are.
We sit, Matt, you and I sit among a spiritual giant here.
We do.
I mean,
we do.
Like you said, we've been very active. We've done a ton of stuff. Lisa was on staff, and then she went out to be on City Hope, and I've done everything from running the baptistry to I'm on my second round of doing communion.
Yeah.
Just all kind of other stuff. So when our kids were young and here at youth group, would come in and make snacks and do other stuff. So we've just been always very active at Centerpoint. So
yeah, and part of we are who we are because of you and others like you. So like you guys are an important part of what's going on here. And as I've gotten to know the both of you over my 10 plus years here, just seeing who you are and how you walk with people is really something pretty phenomenal to see. And so even as we were talking about the dog, like you weren't a dog person, but the dog was presented to you and your heart changed.
Yep.
You've become a dog person.
yes.
And you've gone through a bit of a heart change, just even when it comes to your posture towards ministry and serving, particularly those who are in need.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about what catalyzed that change in you.
It was kind of a call. No, it wasn't kind of a call. It was a call.
Yeah.
So in 2015, like I said, we served a lot, like kind of in that first decade and whatever we could do. And Lisa on staff and such. But in 2015, we had bought a house. We had got it into the studs and we're renovating it. So we were living with some friends, and those friends happened to run the pantry here.
Brian and Sue. Right?
Brian and Sue Tardif. I had never attended a pantry, ever. Not once.
Okay.
Not to see what it was like, not to volunteer, never. And I didn't really have, at that time, a heart for the people that Pantry serves, that City Hope serves. And by that, I mean, it's not like I had anything against them, but I was one of those guys that would walk down the street, and if somebody's there panhandling or asking if I have any change, I just kind of walk on by and pretend they're not there.
Yeah. So it wasn't like disdain.
Yeah, no.
But it was just
a ambivalence.
Yeah, that's a great word.
Just,
okay.
it was just kind of acted like I didn't have time for them.
Yeah, okay.
So we're living with our friends, and they're running pantry, but they have to move for health reasons for Brian. And so they're like, who are we going to hand off pantry to? And so...
Don't look at the eye.
I'm just kind of like, they'd kind of bring it up. We'd be having dinner at their house, and they'd kind of bring it up. We're like, we really haven't found anybody yet. And and it was late in 2015, and I was driving to work. I literally heard a voice say, "You need to take over pantry." I'm like, what the heck was that?
Right.
You know? So I don't say anything for like 3 days.
Okay.
Nothing.
Just sit on it.
I'm going to sit on this for a little bit. And then I got home that third night and I pulled Lisa aside. I'm like, I got to talk to you about something. And she's like, what? And I told her what had happened and that I was being told to take over pantry. And she's like, her first words were, you haven't told anybody yet, have you? so because we were doing so much at the time.
Oh,
she's
my
like,
goodness,
She's
yeah.
like, we don't need one more thing.
Right. And that's no small thing.
I was going to say, that's a really significant thing.
And so we prayed about it, and eventually we're like, you can't ignore this. And so we sat down to dinner with Sue and Brian one night. I said, I think I'm going to take over pantry for you. And they're like, what? They're like, you've never even been to pantry. Do you know what pantry is? Do you know how it works? And I'm like, no, but I can learn. And so over the beginning of 2016, I started attending, and Sue was kind of running it. Brian was kind of helping her. So I had to go over like all the paperwork and all the other stuff you had to do with Sue. And in May of 2016, I took it over. And in that time leading up to when I took it over, and then the time following, after being there, interacting with people, whatever, I kind of went from the guy who basically ignored people on the street to, if I saw one of my pantry people on Main Street, I'd go running across the street and give them a hug. So it's
love
just
that.
It's just, and it's only gotten more over the years. You know, you just the level of compassion and just understanding that, you know, on a pantry Saturday, we have time before people start shopping that they're just together. And if you grab a cup of coffee and you sit down with this person, you say, how was your week? You'll never have to say another word.
Yeah.
Because they don't interact with people. And that's all they want, really, is just somebody to acknowledge they're there.
Somebody sees them.
Yeah.
And genuinely is interested.
Right. And that's why, like, you know, when City Hope was formed, it's the power of with, right?
Yeah.
Just being with somebody. And that's really the biggest thing, right? We hand out blankets in the winter and hand warmers. And, you know, if we see somebody flying a sign, we might give them a $10 market basket card, something like that. And that's all fine. But really what they want is just to be with somebody, have somebody acknowledge them, care for them some. And that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So, and it's taken, you know, like I said, May 2016, I took over. I just passed 10 years.
And it's remarkable. Like we're at the 10-year anniversary of this thing. Yeah.
So it's been a long time, but
Yeah.
you know, I swear every pantry you learn a little something about somebody or something. And, you know, and there's been so many things that kind of have come out of that. Like I told the story on stage about the woman who during COVID, right, knock on the door to do a delivery, she's not there. And we know this person needs the food. We know it.
Yeah.
So the delivery people, they let me know. So Lisa and I are like, should we call in a wellness check? But we knew other people that lived in our building. So we call them and they knock. No, she's not answering. And so finally, you know, I said, I'll just go quick. I called up to the hospital, asked for her. They connected me to a nurse's station. They're like, who's calling? And I explained to the nurse, she's supposed to get food from my pantry. She's not answering her door. I was about to call in a wellness check, but I just thought she'd see if she was in the hospital first. So she puts me on hold. Nurse goes and checks. She comes back. She said, she gave me permission to tell you she's here. And it was funny because she's like, the nurse is crying. She's like, so-and-so is crying. My wife's listening to the story. I'm looking over. She's bawling. And it's just like, it was just such a simple thing, like to make a phone call.
Yeah.
But I would have never done that in the past.
Yeah.
So it's just absolutely changed who I am and where my heart is.
I love that, Jim. And, you know, I only came here in 2015, so our relationship was young when you were stepping into that. But to see you allow God to work in you, he's working through you, but he's also working in you.
Yeah.
And the more you take on the heart of compassion, the more you're taking on his heart, because that is God towards us, full of compassion,
Absolutely.
and mercy. And I've seen that growth, and the beauty of what that looks like. Your advocacy for those on the margins, your tender-heartedness. Like you are a very intelligent person, and you spend a lot of your world in engineering world, and yet your heart is so big. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Thank you. It doesn't hurt that Lisa's whole job is that either. So
Yeah, but this is so much more than that, Jim. This is so much more than that. That would have been the reason to not do it. Right. And so when you heard that voice,
Nice. Yeah, it was just so clear. I'm like, oh.
yeah, isn't that what we do? Like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's God, but I'm going to keep this under wraps because I'm not sure I want a piece of that action. And yet, when you said yes, it was good not only for the people that you serve, it is good for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I'm one of the luckiest ones by this change. Most fortunate ones. Yeah. So
that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
yeah, sure, not a problem.
You are a gift, not just today, but ongoing. I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What a perfect story to align with the story of the Good Samaritan.
It was remarkable.
You know, and just all those pieces that, as Jim was sharing, was just a beautiful thing.
It really was.
Yeah, in the message, I tipped my hat to another passage, which itself deserves probably 2 or 3 messages and a couple of full-length podcasts by itself. So even in our ability to address it here, will shortchange its profound nature. But I do want us to talk a little bit more about this. And that passage that I referenced is towards the end of Matthew. It's in Matthew chapter 25. And it's this passage that talks about when the Son of Man comes, when Jesus returns, he's going to come as judge. So it's this judgment scene that is happening there. So when the Son of Man returns, he is coming to separate, to make clear what might be hidden. And so it's this picture where sheep and goats are kind of intermingled and mixed up, but the Lord's judgment is this clarity. Like things might have been fuzzy, but now they're clear. Let's be clear. And then there's ramifications to that clarity.
Yeah.
So he separates sheep and goat because he is the one who has authority to do that. And then he addresses each of those groups. And his judgment is, well, it's surprising.
You think it's worth a read here?
It probably is. Yeah, not necessarily the whole passage.
Okay.
But I'm thinking about, okay, why don't you start at verse 31
Okay.
and go through 40.
Okay. Matthew 25, starting in verse 31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people from one another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right, and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me."
Okay, thank you for reading that. And so you can hear like the basis on his judgment is so different than we might originally think.
Right?
It's how we respond to him and those around us, right? And so Jesus has said over and over and over again that the law is summed up in love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Yep.
And here Jesus is tying those things together.
He is.
Can you give us a very simple explanation of the biblical hermeneutic called chiasm?
Okay, maybe we should define hermeneutic first.
Just the way we read the Bible.
Yeah, so that big $5 word that you don't have to remember, that is how we read and interpret Scripture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's shapes. There's a shape to how Scripture is written.
Yeah.
That help lead us places.
That's right.
And so chiasm is one of those pieces. Again,
right.
just 1 minute to describe chiasm.
Yeah. So what you're bringing out here, Matt, is there were ways of telling stories in the ancient world that were similar but also different to how we tell them today. So the chiasm, you just picture a triangle in your mind's eye and you turn it on its side, and voila, you have a chiasm. One that we're all familiar with is the nursery rhyme Hickory Dickory Dock. So at the top, if you've got your triangle turned on its side, the very top of that would be Hickory Dickory Dock, and then you come in a step down, the mouse ran up the clock, then you come to the very point, the clock struck 1, then you go down the slope, the mouse ran down, and then the very bottom, Hickory Dickory Dock. So that's chiasm. So what that does...
it looks like a greater than sign or a less than sign.
That's exactly right. So what that's doing is that's matching these points and then getting to an unmatched center point that is meant to pop. It's meant to be the highlight, the thing that gets your attention, the thing that's the takeaway, or the thing to remember.
And it can be something that is disturbing, right? It can lead to something that is shocking. It can lead to something that is comforting.
Yep.
So it can have all sorts of effects, but it's leading somewhere. So it doesn't discount the importance of the things along the way.
Not at all.
But it's pointing somewhere very specific.
That's right. And so when we're looking at this passage here, we didn't read all the way down to verse 46. But if we did, and you'll see this, just picture the greater than, less than sign. The unmatched center of this passage is verse 40. The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me."
Yeah, and so what's popping here is the king, Jesus, is identifying with those who would be dismissed: the hungry, the sick, the naked, the imprisoned. Those who are imprisoned unjustly. So the king is tying himself into those who experience the business end of the way the world works.
Wow, yeah, that's well said.
Right? And so the naked and the hungry are those who have been on the business end of those who take and keep. The imprisoned are those who are on the business end of injustice. The sick who are on the business end of a world that is filled with disease.
Yeah.
And yet the king, who comes in his glory, there he is, verse 31, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all his angels with him.
The whole staff team's there.
Woof.
The royal court has arrived.
Woof. Like, can you even begin to imagine that sight?
No. I mean, it even says the throne is glorious.
Yeah.
In verse 31.
Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, Son of Man language. That's a Daniel 7 connection. Verses 13 and 14. One like a son of man, so it just means a human one.
Yep.
Came and sat down at the right hand of the Ancient of Days, and everything was given to him. Everlasting kingdom to rule over all the nations. And Jesus says, "Yeah, that's me. Hi, it's me."
And he's coming to lay claim.
Yeah, that's right. So here he is, and he's saying, "Listen, those of my people who were on the margins, those who were overlooked, my brothers and sisters who I identify with, who were trampled on by injustice, who were neglected, who weren't cared for, what you did for those people, you actually did that for me."
Because and when Jesus came, he announced, the time has come, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Repent and believe the good news. Like it is good news as the kingdom of God arrives. And there is a way that life works within the kingdom that is different than the way life works in the world,
The ways of the
in
world,
the ways
right.
of this age. We
Yep.
talked a little bit about that a couple of weeks ago, this age and the age to come.
Yep.
And as followers of Jesus, as disciples of Jesus, we are to be increasingly shaped by the values, the priorities, the ethic of his kingdom, marked by the love of God in our midst, transforming us, shaping us, fostering love for him and our neighbor. And that's what it is to live in his kingdom. And we can even go back to the Old Testament. And we
big
see
time.
this, like sometimes we want to say, well, the Old Testament, that's kind of the mean God. And then the New Testament is the Jesus God. And I like the Jesus God and I don't like the old. But there's no distinction. Like God is God and he always has been. And so I'm thinking particularly of Ezekiel 34, the Old Testament prophet, carries a lot of the same flavor. So it's coming with judgment. He is revealing what is true, and God himself is not okay with what he's seen. Because the piece that you didn't read from Matthew 28 is when he turns to the goats on his left and says, you didn't do these things. Depart from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Ezekiel 34 brings us back into that space. And again, worth a couple of podcasts, but we're just going to
That's right.
highlight it a little bit here. Listen to these words from Ezekiel chapter 34. And I'd encourage you listeners to take some time and meditate on this and read it on your own. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. So like the leaders, the rulers of Israel, prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, woe to you shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the curds, clothe yourselves with the wool, and slaughter the choice animals, but you do not take care of the flock. You have not strengthened the weak or healed the sick or bound up the injured. You have not brought back the strays or searched for the lost. You have ruled them harshly and brutally. So they were scattered because there was no shepherd. And when they were scattered, they became food for all the wild animals. My sheep wandered over all the mountains and on every high hill. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one searched or looked for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because my flock lacks a shepherd, and so has been plundered and has become food for all the wild animals, and because my shepherds did not search for my flock, but cared for themselves rather than for the flock. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against the shepherds and will hold them accountable for my flock. I will remove them from tending the flock so that the shepherds can no longer feed themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them. For this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. As a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so I will look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all the places where they were scattered on the day of clouds and darkness. I will bring them out from the nations and gather them from the countries, and I will bring them into their own land. I will pasture them on the mountains of Israel, in the ravines and in all the settlements of the land. I will tend them in a good pasture. And he goes on to talk about this. And so the prophet, inspired by God through the prophet, is saying to the leaders of Israel, you're done now. You have devoured the flock for your own benefit and your own good. And so when Jesus shows up in Matthew 28, and he kind of doing the same thing.
He is. He's doing the same thing. And it's interesting. We've talked about this before, but in the Old Testament law, so in Torah, in the instruction that was given to the nation of Israel, theologians, they identify these kind of four groups of people that they call the vulnerable quartet. The widows, the orphans, the poor, and the foreigners. And on repeat in Torah, God is commanding his people to care for everybody in their community, but with an eye specifically for those four categories of people, because in the ancient world, those four categories of people were not just on the margins, but they had no leverage, they had no power, they had no influence. They were cast aside.
They held none of the cards.
None of it. None of it. So they were the ones that at best people were just apathetic towards, and at worst people took advantage of. And repeatedly, Yahweh commands his people to prioritize caring for everybody, but specifically this group of people. And so Jesus has all this on the mind in this passage here that we're looking at Matthew 25.
And what Jesus is leading us into is where God has always been leading us. And so in creation, Genesis 1 and 2, God created humanity to rule and reign with him.
That's
in
it.
his way, so that all of creation would know who Yahweh is and would experience his love, his provision, his flourishing, his beauty through a people. And even after the rebellion, God would raise up a one, Abram, to make a people, Israel, through whom he would reveal himself to the nations. And so the job, if you will, of God's people is to reveal God's heart.
That's it.
To live in such a way that the world knows who Yahweh is. And so when Jesus is looking at Israel and making this pronouncement, the sheep and the goats, he's saying, one, some of you are goats. You think y'all are sheep. Because they've been identified with the sheep all throughout the Hebrew scriptures. Mm-hmm. And now you're saying some of you are goats? Woof. So he's separating the sheep from the goats. And he's pronouncing judgment. And why is he pronouncing judgment? Not just because Jesus is a do-gooder and, wants everybody to be happy. And this isn't what he's doing at all. He's saying you have failed to live up to your created commission to bear the image of Yahweh into all creation amongst all the nations so that all would be drawn to him to worship him because he is worthy of worship. You have failed to do that. Because you have failed to do what God himself does, which is care for the widows, the orphans, the poor, and the foreigner. And so when the Son of Man comes, he says, we're done now. Mm-hmm. Because what is going to be left is a people who rules and reigns with him.
That's it. That's it, yeah. A people who have received his love and extend his love into all of creation. A people who join him in his work of justice, as he defines it.
Mm-hmm.
And a people who have the understanding. I mean, what he says in Matthew 25, verse 40, what you did for them, you did for me. This is how much God loves us, is he associates with us. He didn't just make us. He associates with us to the point that he took on flesh. So this is why Jesus can say, whatever you did for them, you actually did for me, because they're made in my image.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so... It's hard. I get choked up thinking about it. Like, it's hard to not be moved by that. I think we're supposed to be moved by that, actually.
Right.
So listening to Jim's story and hearing... He just acknowledged, like, I can relate to it. He acknowledged, yeah, I was just apathetic. I had no malintent, but just apathetic. Didn't see, overlooked. But God did this work in me, and then look at what God is doing through him, right? And boy, what an invitation for all of us to grow our imagination and pray and ask the Holy Spirit to show us who are the vulnerable quartet of our context. Who are the vulnerable quartet of our day? Because that's going to look a little different depending on the day and age in which we live and where we're at. And then with intention, how is God inviting us individually and together? How is he inviting us to join him in extending his love even to the least of these? Because as we do that, we're actually doing that for him.